It's great to see everyone out here. Welcome to our presentation, Tech Tools to Transform Culture. Today, Christine and I will share our journey through a project that used tech tools, but ended up changing our library's culture as an end benefit. We will discuss some best practices and things we learned along the way. And throughout the presentation, we will be using Poll Everywhere. And we have the instructions on this slide for those who would like to play along. So if you have your phone and you want to text, the recipient is 37607, and the message should be CIL 2019. If you're using your laptop, you can go to pollev.com and enter CIL 2019. So to get us started, we have this very simple poll, sort of an icebreaker. How do you feel today? So if you are already in, is everyone in? Anybody need any more help with the instructions? Okay, they're right there at the top again. So we have these emojis that kind of represent feelings. So if you're feeling very, very happy, I want you to text A, letter A. That's all you have to text. And if you're feeling like the second emoji, which is a bit shocked or maybe nervous like I am, you can text B. If you're feeling mad or unhappy or sad, which we don't want anyone to be feeling, text C. And if you're feeling a bit devilish, like you've got it in you today, feel free to text D, the letter D. Is this working? Oh no. Has anyone texted yet? Okay, hold that thought then, because something's gone wrong. Let's start it one more time. Let's see. What's going on? Sorry, it's always about technology, right? At a tech conference, it's always going to be incorrect, even if you want it to be. And we've tested this like so many times, even in this room. Yes? Are you using your own laptop? I am using my own laptop. So let me see what's going on. If this doesn't work, we'll just move on.
Give it a second. It's coming.
That could be very well it too. Let's see. Well, I don't know what's going on. So we'll go ahead and not worry about this and move on, because I want to make sure we get through everything we were going to share. We thought it'd be fun, but of course, every best laid plan goes awry. Come on. Okay, I don't know.
Bill's here.
That's okay. We'll just keep on going.
Look, it's working.
Oh, hooray!
See, Bill came.
Yeah, and that's
Bill
it.
just
He's
showed
the
up.
magic. He's the magic right here. Okay.
Oh, good. We have a lot of happy people.
Oh, good. Everyone is happy. Wonderful. All right. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Christine.
Okay, who put the devilish one up? Because okay, we got some devils in the room. Got it.
That's
All right.
okay.
That's good to know. We like to know who our people are, who our audience is. So moving on, and now that you're familiar with this polling system, I want you to look at this slide. This time you're going to be texting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. And these are the things that are most important in creating a culture of change in your organization. So if you think providing a clear vision is most important, click 1, text 1. If you think it's honoring history, 2. Creating an inclusive and collaborative environment is 3. Communicating expectations is 4. Empowering individuals is 5. Promoting accountability is 6. And rewarding good behavior is 7. So as you see these results come up, I'm actually going to tell you something. It's a little secret. They're all important. So I want you to realize that as you picked one, that's probably one that has most to do with the situation you're in your organization. So keep that in mind as we go through this presentation, that this is where you want to focus on. And it looks like we got a lot on creating an inclusive culture, right? Is that one of them? Communicating, Yep. That is a collaborative environment, right? I agree. But they're all important. Keep it in mind as we go through the presentation, and you'll note that this is actually our roadmap. So instead of giving you an objective slide, we use this to show you what we're going to be covering today. Oh yeah. So now we're going to do...
Oh, no, it is me, sorry. So going on, as a project or organization change gets underway, it is important to have a good understanding of your team in order to develop the best plan for success. Sometimes the best way to do this is to ask, why? Why are we undertaking this? Why is it important? Why does this matter? At MC, we were planning a reorganization that would radically change the whole structure of the library. For librarians, this would lead to an embedded model rather than a service desk model. Even the physical layout would be changed, going from separate service desks to one service desk. As librarians are not as present on demand, there would be a need for consistent training among all employees, especially those who would be frontline service. And this led to the need for robust competencies, particularly for information seeking.
Okay, so as Vickie explored the why, we're actually going to do a little orientation. So I know you're settled, and this is early in the talk, but we're going to ask you all to stand up for just a second. We usually do this at the end, but we like to keep you moving. Okay, so now the instruction is to close your eyes. All right? Close your eyes and point where you think north is. Point to north. Just point to north.
You can move your body.
You can move around, point to north, just don't poke anybody in an eye.
And stay where you are
Okay.
once you're pointing.
All
Don't
right.
move, keep pointing, don't change.
Okay, now keep pointing and open your eyes. And I want you to look around the room. Look at everybody. We're all pointing in different directions, right? Okay, now, put your hands down. Okay, I'm going to tell you now that north is this way. It's this way, all right? So now close your eyes this time and point to north. Okay, keep pointing and open your eyes. What do you see? We're all pointing in the same direction. Even with your eyes closed, you knew where north was because I told you. So leadership is really important, correct? Vision is important. And so that's just a little activity for you to realize that that's why that why is so important and why culture change can only happen with that why. So have a seat and thank you for playing.
Okay. So one cannot move forward without acknowledging the past. Are we all in agreement with that? You have to kind of know where you've been to know where you're going to go. So at MC, we already had technology competencies and access services competencies established. And in planning the upcoming service model change, we adopted their approach to develop information-seeking competencies. The librarians had some concerns about the reference skills of student employees and access services employees at that time. Their concern over reduced contact with students and the equity of distribution of public service work across the divisions. There was fear that the students we served would not get their information needs satisfied to the level that was currently offered. And finally, change is never easy. So how do we overcome the desire to maintain the status quo?
So in preparation for these projects, we had an all librarians meeting, and a presentation was given in advance of that to explain to all the library employees at all the campuses that it shared a vision, it shared why the service model was shifting to a single service point, it acknowledged the history, and it communicated next steps. You'll hear that that sounds very similar to our roadmap, which is a good thing. That means we're modeling that behavior. So we shared expectations, we explained how the work would be distributed, we invited outside speakers and experts to include and we included all stakeholders, such as our access services supervisors and our library technical assistants. Though they wouldn't be expected to produce any content, they had already created competencies in their areas, and this work would impact future iterations of their expertise. So, you know, in our description, we talk about this 8-year myth, right? of culture change. And I just want you to know that we also fell prey to it because we have literally been talking about single service since 2010. That's 9 years ago, and we're not fully there yet. Okay, so in the early 2010, one of the campus libraries developed a plan to create core competencies for public services and customer services. We developed triage and referral practices, including the creation of a service continuum for access services, reference, and technology. Work was stalled at the end of 2010 due to changes in leadership, priority shifting, and staffing levels. Is that a problem for anybody in the room? Right. In mid-2013, 3 years later, a project to have students staff the reference desk as reference assistants was started at Rockville and was piloted for 1 semester. Though comprehensive training plans and shadowing schedules were developed, there weren't enough student employees to staff 2 separate desks, and at the time it was 3 separate desks because we had an access services desk, a technology desk, and a reference desk. Oh, I'm sorry. I talk too fast, so I'm excited about the content. So by the end of 2013, we were talking about combining all those services. But the work stalled again until 2015 due to leadership changes, shifts in priorities, and staffing levels. Similar problems? In early 2015, exercises were conducted to determine the pros and cons of the new model. A SWOT analysis was completed by all library employees, and technology competencies were established, which really led to the transformative work. In August 2015, under new management, it was me. The Rockville Campus Library experimented with a peer reference model, using all the work from 2013 and adding on to it to have student employees staff the reference desk during low peak hours, so from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock and 6:30 at night to 8 o'clock p.m. So we did tons of assessments. We interviewed all the employees plus all of the student employees who were participating in the pilot. It was really a huge success. But unfortunately, we lacked the resources needed to continue it, and we lacked the full support college-wide. So we suspended it, but we learned a lot of lessons from it. They were powerful, and it allowed us to continue our on-call model, which was new to the libraries, and also the creation of information seeking and access services core competencies, as well as making consistent training for the student employees. That was something that we really wanted to focus on, right? Because they were staffing the desk at that point, and we wanted to make sure we were consistently making sure that everybody was getting the same experience. And I will tell you, in August of 2018, it became a college-wide practice to have an in-service day for our student employees. So that was a big shift. So we knew that all the students were getting consistent training. And so from this, we're actually talking about our information-seeking core competencies. They were developed, vetted, and divided for equal distribution of the work. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So using the technology competencies as a model, we developed a list of competencies that all employees should be expected to have as a baseline for their knowledge and skills in any area. Specifically, this one is for information seeking. So this includes navigation of the college and library website. It includes the virtually and physically directing library users to what they need, the use of assessment software. We use Gimlet, and an understanding of the collections and where to point users to resources. We're not necessarily interested in how to use the resources, right? Because that's what librarians are for, but where they live, that was the piece. The list shows which competency set may overlap with, whether it's access services or technology, and what tier on the service continuum it falls under. So it also lists which employee in the library should have the applicable knowledge. It could be a student 1, student 2, library assistant, technical assistant. The access services supervisor should have knowledge of all of it. We developed on-call best practices that outlined the expectations that no one was to answer a question outside of their job scope. That helped with a lot of the concerns that Vickie was talking about earlier, about the fear of, this is outside of my job scope, I'm not paid for that, I'm calling the union, all of those things that come up, right? So we made sure that that was very clear.
So to overcome the concerns, fears, and inertia, we wanted to jumpstart the process by bringing all the librarians together to work on these information-seeking competencies as a team that Christine just outlined. This was kind of the first time it had ever been done. We also opened the meeting to other stakeholders, including the library technical assistants and the access services supervisors. To encourage the usage of new technology to create the tools to support the competencies, we invited a college employee who is a technology trainer to come in and demonstrate how to use Camtasia, Jing, and Screencast-O-Matic, which were new to us. She also outlined best practices on how to develop videos, instructional videos that we would be using in these tools to train everyone. To address the inertia and fears against change, which I mentioned earlier, our college ombuds, who's a neutral and an unbiased resource for the college, came in and led a discussion on change management using, some of you might be familiar with this one, Who Moved My Cheese? Does everyone know this one? Okay, I don't know if anyone said no, but I'm going to go over a little bit about it. So for those who are not familiar with the story, it takes place in a large maze. So imagine a massive, large maze. And there are 4 characters, Scurry and Sniff, who are mice, and Hem and Haw, who are mice-sized people, okay, so little. They all find the mother lode of cheese in a part of this maze and are all enjoying the bounty. However, Scurry and Sniff, our mice, have an inkling that the cheese will not last, while Hem and Haw settle in and feel it will last forever. However, that is not the case, and the cheese dwindles, goes away. But Scurry and Sniff, our mice heroes, are ready to adapt and go off into the maze in search of more cheese. Hem and Haw, however, get angry as they have built their lives around this cheese and are convinced more is going to come if they just stay put. And when that does not happen, they cry out, "Who moved my cheese?" Eventually, Haw, one of our little mice-sized people, gets hungry enough to accept that no more cheese is going to arrive here and leaves to see what else is in the maze, overcoming his fears. As he goes, he writes encouraging messages on the walls. He does find small bits of cheese a little bit farther into the maze, and he brings them back and tries to convince him to accept that there will be no more cheese where they settled. But there might be even more deeper in the maze. But him, he's stubborn, he refuses. Finally, Haw gives up on him. The heck with him, as he realizes that him will have to accept change on his own. And Haw does discover another mother lode of cheeses even better than the previous, which, again, our mice heroes Scurry and Sniff found earlier. Now these 3, they each monitor this cheese supply and are ready to change again once the need arises. And those encouraging messages Haw wrote to himself as he was going deeper and deeper into the maze, they keep moving the cheese, meaning change happens. Get ready for the cheese to move. Anticipate that change. Smell the cheese often, so you know when it is getting old. Monitor that change. The quicker you let go of old cheese, the sooner you can enjoy new cheeses. So adapt to those changes quickly. Move with the cheese. Change. And savor that adventure and enjoy the taste of new cheese. Enjoy change. And they're going to keep moving that cheese. So you better be ready to change quickly and enjoy it again.
I really think we need to give Vickie a hand for that, because, I mean, what kind of librarians would we be if we didn't include a story time into the presentation? All right, so now that you know this process that we did, we actually thought about our next steps, including honoring strengths. So empowering librarians by providing a training on a new or existing tech tool, a clear timeline for completing the work, and equally distributing the workload. We also sold this as an opportunity, right? Everybody likes to say that instead of challenge. We sold it as an opportunity to be a role model in how to develop tools to make training more consistent and asynchronous. And I just want to back up for a second and go back to our vision, right? In order to establish an embedded librarian program, we needed to create a single service model. In order to create a single service model, we need to have consistent training. In order to have consistent training, we need to have competencies. And you see that that's what we were building toward, and we're actually still building toward it now. So when this is realized, there are some benefits, okay? When we're finally in place, the benefits to our library users include a one-stop assistance that responds to users' expectations, eliminates confusion and frustration. It creates a more user-centered experience that positively responds to their needs. And it's a design solution where we use less space more efficiently and effectively so that we can have help at one point rather than multiple service points and give that space back to our students, which we have done now at all 3 campus locations. We have the actual one desk, and that space that we opened up, we created it for student use again. So that's really great, we're giving it back. Now, the library employees, they get benefits too. Besides that, we're honoring their strengths in that all employees have the ability to gain new experiences and knowledge. We create a learning environment, and employees have the chance to use their expertise to serve the needs of our students and our library users with more opportunities to demonstrate relevance to the academy. So during all of this, by the way, we didn't even mention it, there's a justification of positions going on. All right, so this justification piece, just by showing this relevance and elevating that work, that was helpful in that experience as well. And I think it will continue to be as we move on through this process. So I just wanted to show you another piece of what the competencies look like, because as we also empowered employees to choose their tool, we also let them make a decision whether they like to be an independent worker or whether they like to work in groups. So I know that some people are group people. I'm not really a group person, but I will tell you that I am in a job interview. So the truth is I really like to do things on my own and then come together and then get consensus and we talk about it, right? But there are some people who really, they're jazzed from that group work. And so we gave them that choice. And it worked because it made it so that they could be responsible for each other's work as well. Now Vickie's gonna talk.
So here is the tech tools that we promised from the title. So I mentioned those 3 at the beginning, Jing, Camtasia, and Screencast-O-Matic, which were new to us. I don't think many or any of our librarians had experience with this. But we also realized that success cannot happen without that proper support. So we wanted our content creators, those who are creating these tools, to try a variety of technology to create them. And the trainer during our Information Seeking Competencies Day, when we brought everyone together, introduced us to those, and also, again, developed those best practices, creating a script, how do you want to go about doing this, making sure it's seamless, doing the editing. So that helped build that success and build confidence in using the tools. But our other librarians, many of them wanted to create it with PictoChart. They decided, looking at that competency, an infographic might serve better. So they used PictoChart to create those infographics and explain the different concepts to the end user. However, more still used tools that were already known. Handouts from Microsoft Word were created. Some used PowerPoint to create step-by-step instructions. So when we were empowering them to do these tools, we let them use whatever tool they thought worked best for them.
And so accountability is a huge part of this, right? Because we can talk all day, but unless we're actually doing something, it's worthless, right? So our phase 1 included the tool development. We had strong deadlines. So we had this meeting in July, and the tools were due the 1st of December. And the reason that we did that was because, you know, the fall is our busiest semester of the academic year. And so we wanted to give people enough time to complete the project, but we also wanted the accountability of it. We ensured that day-to-day work was done during our busiest semester and that managers checked in on progress and asked if additional resources were needed to complete the work by deadline. We had this lateral obligation for the people who were working in teams, and then we stored all of the tools on a LibGuide. You're familiar with LibGuides, everyone? Yes?
Yeah.
So we did it with a LibGuide for a number of reasons. We did it with a password so that students could also access LibGuide without a LibApps account. So we kept it published but hidden, and you need a password to get into it because there are things there that we don't want open just yet until we're ready to make this, a thing. So phase 2 included a review of the resources. We were lucky enough to have a librarian volunteer, someone who worked in a federal library who wanted to get some experience working in a community college, which was great because she was truly a peer but didn't work in Montgomery College. So she reviewed all of the tools right after they were completed to give feedback, which was then incorporated in order to do a self-review and then finally a manager review. Phase 3 will include the assessment of the tools. I just wanted to show you a kind of a timeline that was given out to show where you should be in the process, what kind of messaging you should be sending to your reviewers, things that we could offer to the employees so that they had something, so they weren't just building it from scratch. And to save time, I think checklists are like one of my favorite things in the whole world. And then I want to show you the rubric that we used that had an area for self, peer, and manager review. And so we designed, we had a rubric about the design of the tool. We had a rubric for the content. And then we had a rubric for, they all added up to, a final tool, but for the technical piece, to make sure that all the technical pieces worked.
So, does everyone like a reward? We thought this was very, very important, and that was our final piece of the roadmap. To reward not just the end result, but the journey along the way. And that should be meaningful and tangible. So we wanted to acknowledge all this hard work and make it important and manageable and tangible to our culture. Remember your own culture and climate. That's one of the first parts of this roadmap. Understand who you are. So in one organization, a reward might look very different than to another. But it's important to show true appreciation for the efforts being made. And it pays off in dividends with future projects, inspiring a willingness to participate. Now, unfortunately for us, we mentioned we were going through a reorganization. So the reorganization changes and other situations outside our control led to us failing to adequately reward our participants, which was very, very bad, we felt. But, however, we did still get benefits. A membership, a feeling of oneness was achieved. Again, this was the first time we had brought together all of our librarians to a certain one focused task. So it helped build bridges. And this work that we were talking about, it was accomplished before the change happened. So it didn't get scattered, it actually did get finished. And it also helped the participants prepare for the new team structure that we're going through right now. Sorry, gotta turn my notes. Oh, she clicked it for me. Okay. When things go off the rails, how many of you have had a project that's gone completely off the rails? It happens, right? So even if you follow all of our roadmap, sometimes things just go awry. Projects stall. Employees lose motivation. Has that ever happened? Where you get really good motivation at the beginning, and then as time drags and drags and drags, it's like, are we ever going to get there? And they're like, you know what, I've got other stuff I can be doing. And sometimes a project is just totally abandoned. Has that ever happened? Yeah, it happens. If any of this happens, though, it is important as a leader to acknowledge it. okay? Don't just ignore it. Don't just say, oh, they're going to forget about this. It won't matter, because it will. It will matter to the morale of your employees. If the project is completely derailed, provide closure to those who worked on it up to that point, because people do give all of themselves to these different projects. They want to succeed. If things stall, it is important to communicate with the group, right? Discover not just how to get it back on track, because if it stalls, there's some reason. So you need to find out what that reason is and find out the best way to continue forward. And your group, your employees, your teams are going to have ideas. So if a leader is honest and open, it can inspire the confidence and remotivate and re-engage everyone. And ultimately, even that leads to culture change.
I mean, I haven't told Vickie this part yet, and I probably should have, but I added a little something to, after she talks about the leader piece. I think that that's something that is not explicit throughout this presentation. We don't actually say the importance of leadership, right? But leadership is built into every one of these steps. I think that's why we don't name it. And, you know, Vickie mentioned something about inspiring confidence and re-motivating and re-engaging employees by being open and honest. Well, there's actually a matrix that tells you what it means to be a credible leader. And they include two things. They include honesty and integrity, and they include expertise. If you lack expertise and you lack integrity, you will never get an audience with anyone. But if you have integrity and you have expertise, you will have followers. And Peter Drucker, I heard it already in the conference, somebody said, Peter Drucker said the only true definition of a leader is that there's followers, right? And so knowing that is like, if you don't have any followers, then you're not leading. Who are you leading? Goes back to our pointing, right? Where are we going? You're gonna follow me if I don't tell you where we're going? No, you're not. And so I just wanted to add that piece in because I didn't wanna miss the idea that that leadership component is vital to culture change. So now I'm back on track. Okay. So thanks for letting me go off on a tangent. Montgomery College's mission is to empower our students to change their lives and enrich the life of our community. And we do this, we are accountable for those results. It is this mission, vision, and values that help the Montgomery College Library strive for service excellence. So in order to create the best conditions for services that lead to student success, we focus on integrating user needs into library planning, service-oriented employees with a commitment to training and professional development for employees' continual growth, and empowering employees to use their judgment in meeting user needs and problem solving, developing standards for users to know what to expect, and creating a culture of assessment to see how we're doing and meet the needs of the future and expectations. I will tell you that that's not actually our official mission or vision for the library, but it's ours. So, you know, you can lead where you are. By establishing a single service point, creating competencies in the areas of technology, access services, and information-seeking competencies, and authoring asynchronous learning objects, we're able to realize the mission of Montgomery College and the library in creating consistent employee training, the elevation of our employees' skills, and establishing the embedded librarian program. In a throwback to our orientation exercise at the beginning of this presentation, vision and direction are important. And I want to read you this quote by Joel Barker. He said, "Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision is just passing the time, but vision with action can change the world." Okay, we hope that you took away a nugget of something here that you can use in your own organization as you journey through culture change. And we're going to do one final poll with you so that you can actually type in, using the same text, if you could type in what really jumped out at you today, something you're going to take with you, something that was important, something that was ridiculous to you, anything. We'll take anything. All right?
Please, type.
So type it in, let us know, and we're here to answer your questions.
Fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. here for questions. Okay. Yes, over here.
Hi there, D302, Pretty Library, University of Shady Grove.
Oh,
Hello.
So one question that comes to mind, and obviously we, like I said, we're neighbors with our libraries and universities in mind. When it comes to students and culture transformation, what are some things that you've noticed recently in 2019 or even in past months and previous year that have been outstanding or underwhelming?
Okay. Can I start?
You may.
All right. Yes, I'll repeat the question. What changes, if I can get this right,
Yeah,
what
go ahead.
changes have we seen in the way students' expectations during culture change?
Expectations or anything in general?
Anything in general, anything that we've seen about student changes. Well, one thing that I keep pushing, it's really interesting, is the idea that students don't actually expect you to be sitting at a desk. They don't have that expectation. And yet we continue to live this model that they're not expecting it. They're almost surprised you're there. Like, what are you doing? This is strange. You know, they don't, I think that's one thing that I've noticed in the last 10 years working in Montgomery College, that shift from, and at a community college, there's a lot more hand-holding going on. So you would think that there would be more of a need to be there ready to serve, but they don't expect you to be there. They expect the service, but it can come in a variety of ways. It doesn't have to be because you're waiting for them. So that's one thing that I would say I noticed in our changes.
And I would say that we had a survey about students' access to technology, because that was one of our concerns, is do students have a laptop? Do they have a smartphone? And it turns out they do. And we have laptops for them to borrow, but I think I'm seeing a real shift in technology use. So just this semester, I work very closely, since I'm health sciences, with our nursing students. And I want to say that when I go out to every beginning nursing class, every section, every fall and spring semester. And this semester I went out and I did my usual song and dance, talking about information literacy and the resources and APA and all of that. And I had an overwhelming response from students. They were emailing me. And this is like, I'm not talking one or two. I usually get one, maybe two. But I'm talking students who are emailing me going, I need some help. I got it, but I'm just not getting it, you know. I met with students, so they wanted to meet with me face to face. They're like, do you have office hours? So they were willing to Skype, you know, and I always offer, I'm like, I love technology. So for me, I was like, let's Skype if you can, you know, wherever you are, I'm gonna try to meet that need. And so I think that their use of willingness to email, to use technology, to try different things, to get what they need is something I'm seeing. Oh,
Yes.
How did you put together your core competencies? Did you go out looking for different things? Did you interview? Because ours seem to be like elusive.
So, okay, first, the technology core competencies were the start. And we had a team of amazing technical assistants at the time who worked together to go out and see what industry standards said, compared it to other community colleges in the state and outside. They really did a great job of modeling just what the day-to-day needs of what competencies will you need to be successful in technology in a community college library. And then from that, we used that model for access services, and then we use that model for information seeking competencies. And we did separate them out because they are three distinct services that we're offering. And we want everybody to have the baseline of all three. So now they're sort of combined. But the process was actually what you just said. It's asking people, it's following, shadowing employees. We had a lot of development around the information seeking competencies of a librarian taking on as a project, but then making sure that all of the campus librarians had an opportunity to add to it. And I asked them the question, if somebody was sitting at the desk and you were not here, what are the skills you would want them to have in order to make sure that the student is getting their needs met? And we really use that as sort of the way in to what we wanted those competencies to be.
And we started with this, but that's not necessarily even where we're going to end. I mean, we built a core set of tools, but as we go on, we might find there are things missing. And we used our own reference statistics as well. We used Gimlet, as she mentioned, so we could see what kind of questions were coming in. If people were giving very good entries in, we could go, oh, this is coming up. They need to know how to do this. And that allowed us to have some clue as well. So we looked at, you know, just general standards. And of course, what do we do every day? You know?
You plan on revisiting it once a year or every 2 years, or?
You remember I said that?
With the restructuring, it's kind of up in the air at the moment, but hopefully.
Yeah, as the teams are redeveloped, because again, that's one of our things is we are going through reorganization, I imagine that is going to come back up and that will become a maintenance thing. And since they live and we have given people power, you know, anyone could happily make a tool and then have it reviewed by a peer and manager.
For sure. Over here first.
So my organization actually implemented a very similar service model to what you're trying to do, and staff resistance was kind of a big thing with implementing that. So is there one of your tools or methods in particular that you found the most helpful for bringing hesitant staff on board?
Explaining relevance. The truth is, at the time in our organization, they had outsourced the child care center and our bookstore. And so, and I hope everybody heard the question, what specifically what are some special things we could do to help with the staff resistance piece? And so that was sort of on people's minds. The idea of bringing a contractor in just freaked everybody out. Like, what are they doing? They're gonna get rid of us. And sort of using that a little bit to explain that this is an opportunity for us to be more relevant, and that elevated the skills. It's not perfect though. There's still some resistance even now.
We got a lot of questions of, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this now? And we just had to go, because it's required eventually, you know, that's one of the things is sometimes you do just have to force it and go, it's gonna be better for everyone, but we're gonna do this. And sometimes it is about being a leader, is just pushing people. And I think also having them in teams, some of the more resistant people who were like very cynical, when they worked as a team, they were just like, okay, let's just get this done. And that helped that accountability. So we do know that there are some who are going to be more resistant than others. But again, talking about how this helps everyone. And again, we're all in one mission. We want to help our students succeed. Student success is like the driving thing for us.
And over here.
Like you, we went to a single service desk and an on-call reference model as well. One of our biggest concerns with librarians is sort of making sure that the student assistants who are doing the sort of triage are kind of staying in their lane and they're not going too far.
Yeah.
I was curious if you discovered or used any tech tools to kind of track what the students are doing to kind of make sure they're kind of staying within their lane, if you will, in terms of what they're offering to the students before they refer them to a librarian.
So we have a very sophisticated tool called Gimlet, and what we have them do is actually have a tag that's called referral. So the student will log in what happened before they click referral. And so we can actually run a report and see, and we have run those reports to make sure, especially during the pilot phase, to make sure that they had what they needed in order to do their job. We really, really drilled in the idea that we should not be working outside of our lanes. We had to do that. I mentioned union, I mentioned a bunch of reasons kind of jokingly, but seriously, like we have to stay within our lanes. And so the students never really went beyond, except when they learned a skill and we sort of gave them the thumbs up. And so that was how we handled that and tracked it. Good. Any other questions?
Oh, I was trying to get y'all out for lunch early and y'all are asking lots of questions.
Which is wonderful.
Thank
we
you.
loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.